You smell yourself before you smell anything else. It happens the moment you wake up. You reach for soap, deodorant, maybe a scented lotion, without even thinking about it. For most of your life, you have never once smelled like just you. For roughly 300,000 years, that would have been impossible to imagine. Your ancestors did not have soap. They did not have deodorant. They did not have shampoo, toothpaste, or a single bottle of anything scented. And yet they were not walking around in a fog of stench, doomed and miserable. They had their own systems. Their own tools. Their own quiet science of the body, built entirely from what the earth handed them. So what did ancient humans actually do about body odor and hygiene? The answer is stranger, smarter, and more social than you'd expect. Start with your skin. Right now, it is covered in a living layer of bacteria, an ecosystem scientists call the skin microbiome. Catherine Amato, a biological anthropologist, studies this microbiome in modern hunter-gatherer groups like the Hadza of Tanzania. Her research found something surprising. Hunter-gatherer skin carries a far more diverse bacterial community than the skin of people in industrialized nations. More diversity, in this case, does not mean more smell. It often means more balance. Fewer of the specific bacteria that feed on sweat and produce the sharp odor you associate with body smell today. Modern life, with its daily soap and antibacterial everything, actually strips away much of that diversity. You are not cleaner than your ancestors in the way you assume. You are different. You have traded one bacterial balance for another, and the trade came with side effects nobody asked for. But bacteria are only half the story. What about the dirt, the grease, the everyday grime of living outdoors? Here is where it gets interesting. Ancient humans used water constantly, whenever they could reach it. Rivers, lakes, and streams weren't just for drinking. They were washing stations, built into daily movement. No soap, but plenty of scrubbing, splashing, and full-body dunking, especially in warmer climates. They also used what nature gave them as substitutes for soap. Ash, 4:1. Wood ash mixed with water creates a mild alkaline substance, close to the earliest form of soap humans would eventually invent on purpose. Clay was another tool, absorbing oil and grease from skin and hair the same way some face masks do today. And certain plants, when crushed, released natural saponins, soap-like compounds that foam slightly in water. Your ancestors did not need a factory. They needed a riverbank and a memory of what worked. Now think about teeth. You assume ancient people had rotten mouths, and in some later farming societies, that's actually true, thanks to sugar-heavy grain diets. But earlier hunter-gatherers tell a different story. Karen Hardy, an archaeologist who studies ancient diet and health, examined dental calculus, the hardened plaque preserved on fossil teeth, from Neanderthal and early human remains. Inside that calculus, she found microscopic evidence of chewed plants with medicinal and cleaning properties. She also identified something called toothpick grooves, tiny worn channels between teeth, left behind by decades of deliberately picking food debris out with a thin stick or blade of grass. This wasn't accidental. It was routine. A daily habit, repeated so many times it left a permanent mark on bone. Picture it now. Reconstruct the scene. An early human sits near a fire at dusk. The orange sky is fading into deep blue. She pulls a thin sliver of wood from the ground beside her and works it slowly between her teeth, the way you might glance at your phone without thinking. Nearby, someone else rubs ash and water across their arms, scrubbing off a day's worth of dust and sweat. A child gets their hair picked through by an older sibling, not for lice necessarily, but because touch itself matters. This is not a group ignoring hygiene. This is a group that has simply built it into rhythm, muscle memory, and social bonding, rather than into a bathroom cabinet. That last detail, the hair picking, is not incidental. It connects to something bigger. Grooming, among early humans, was never just about cleanliness. It was social glue. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar has argued that physical grooming, running hands or fingers through another person's hair or skin, triggered a release of endorphins that built trust and strengthened bonds within a group, much like it still does among primates today. When your ancestors groomed each other, they were doing two things at once: removing dirt, parasites, and debris, and reinforcing the exact social ties that kept the group alive. Here's the twist you probably didn't expect. Hygiene wasn't only about cleanliness. It was about clothing, and clothing tells an even stranger story. Mark Stoneking, a geneticist, studied the DNA of human body lice, the kind that live specifically in clothing rather than hair. By comparing the genetic divergence of body lice from head lice, his team estimated when humans started regularly wearing clothes. Their calculation pointed to roughly 170,000 years ago. That means for well over 100,000 years, hygiene had nothing to do with fabric at all. It was skin, water, ash, and touch. Clothing, and the new hygiene challenges it created, came later, as a technology, not a given. Even ochre, that reddish mineral pigment found at sites like Blombos Cave in South Africa, played a hygiene-adjacent role. Archaeologist Christopher Henschelwood, who led excavations there, uncovered ochre processing tools dating back around 100,000 years. Some researchers believe ochre wasn't only used for symbolic body decoration. Its mildly antiseptic and some protective properties may have made it functional too, a kind of ancient sunscreen and skin treatment layered under whatever meaning it carried socially. So here is the counterintuitive part. Ancient humans were not dirtier than you. They were differently clean, using systems built around water access, plant chemistry, and social touch, rather than industrial products designed to eliminate all bacteria on contact. Their approach to hygiene was slower, more communal, and arguably more attuned to what the human body actually needs to stay balanced. Now think about your own routine. The 11-step skincare shelf. The antibacterial soap that kills the good bacteria along with the bad. The deodorant fighting a war against sweat glands that are just doing their job. You are the product of an evolutionary system built for ash, water, and grooming circles around a fire. You are living inside a bathroom built for a body that no longer quite matches it. Maybe the real question isn't whether ancient humans were clean enough. Maybe it's whether you've traded something essential, the touch, the rhythm, the community involved in caring for a body, for a version of clean that arrives alone, in a bottle, with your name never mentioned once. You smell yourself before you smell anything else. Your ancestors smelled each other first.